So I think it starts with Bitcoin solving the thing that I brought up earlier about the mismatch between transactions and settlement speeds. Um, so from literally the invention of the telegraph until just before the invention of Bitcoin, we didn't have fast settlements. We had fast transactions, but we didn't have fast settlements. So we had an inherent, really big mismatch. And what Bitcoin kind of is the invention of fast settlement, fast digital settlement. It's a way to send value to someone that is now permanent, final settled value, unless, of course, the majority of the network of many different entities decides to reverse it, which is not really a thing that happens.
Bitcoin's potential journey toward a $120,000 price point is not just driven by market speculation but reflects its growing significance as a transformative financial asset. Since its creation in 2008, Bitcoin has revolutionized financial systems by addressing inefficiencies such as settlement delays, reversals, and centralized control. Through its decentralized blockchain, Bitcoin enables fast, secure, and final transactions, establishing itself as a cornerstone of modern finance. Lyn Alden emphasizes that Bitcoin's ongoing bull run highlights its unique ability to bridge the gap between transaction speed and settlement certainty, creating a seamless global value transfer system. The surge in institutional adoption and the rise of decentralized finance further demonstrate Bitcoin's expanding role as a hedge against inflation and a store of value. As Bitcoin's price continues to rise, its resilience through market corrections signals the onset of a broader financial revolution. Alden's analysis suggests that this rally isn't just about short-term growth. It's a validation of Bitcoin's profound and lasting impact on the global economy.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
I think that it's cool that that option exists for people that wanted to. I don't really see it taking off. And I've touched on that kind of system before. One is that it's involved in a chain of credit. And credit isn't necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes credit gives you efficiency. But the problem with that system is you have to rely on credit. So with Bitcoin, you have the option. You could use it non-custodially. You could use it custodially, depending on what your preference is for efficiency. Maybe for working capital, I don't mind having a little bit of custodial. Whereas like for savings, I want it non-custodial. People can pick whatever they want. With gold, there's no choice. You have to go through this like layered chain of custody with that whole process. Secondarily, gold, the supply inflates by about 1.5% per year on average due to new mining. So you're choosing to hold the money that has less debasement than fiat, but more debasement than Bitcoin over the long run. And it generally kind of goes against Gresham's law, which is people, if fiat currency exists, there's not a big incentive for people to say, I want to hold gold and spend gold. They'll say, well, I'll hold savings assets, whether it's gold, whether it's Bitcoin, and I'll just spend the fiat. That can be someone else's problem. Like I'll just spend fiat for things, that circulates with higher velocity. I just don't think there's a lot of people for which that solution is solving a problem for them. And instead, there's just a fairly small number of people that are more ideological about it. They want to hold gold, and therefore they want to be able to spend their gold, which is great that solution exists for them.
Yes.
And people often say, well, why can't you make a gold-backed crypto? And the answer is there are. There's gold-backed stablecoin things, and there's a market for it. It's not a very big one, and it's just not solving a lot of problems that people have. And one of the things I like to point out, again, I go back and forth between the United States and Egypt, regardless of where I am in the world, there are ways to access my Bitcoin. Like there's, you can have all sorts of multi-sig, collaborative custody, globally dispersed keys and things like that. And so, and with gold, when I'm in Egypt, I can't access any gold I might have in the U.S. When I'm in the U.S., I can't access any gold I might have in Egypt, other than through trusted third parties. If I hold my gold in a vault in Singapore, and that's great, but it's this chain of custody, and so it's not that it's not a solution. It's just that it's clearly a limited solution. It doesn't kind of fundamentally solve the problem. It just kind of band-aids the problem. And to be clear, I mean, I like gold. I've owned gold for quite a long time. I certainly prefer it over government bonds. between the two. So I don't consider myself an antagonist for gold bugs. It's just that I view Bitcoin as doing a lot of things that gold proponents wished that gold could do.
Lyn Alden highlights Bitcoin's transformative role in overcoming the limitations of traditional financial systems, particularly those based on gold-backed currencies and credit systems. While gold has historically been a reliable store of value, its annual supply inflation of about 1.5% due to mining gradually diminishes its value. In contrast, Bitcoin's fixed supply offers a more inflation-resistant alternative. Although gold-backed cryptocurrencies exist, Alden points out their limited appeal and failure to address core issues like accessibility, making Bitcoin's decentralized and globally accessible nature a superior solution. Alden envisions Bitcoin evolving into a dominant global asset, potentially rivaling gold's $20 trillion market. She emphasizes Bitcoin's growing adoption and universal accessibility, contrasting its appeal with the limited utility of fiat currencies like the Egyptian pound. Drawing parallels to the disruptive evolution of the internet, she predicts that Bitcoin will significantly reshape the global financial system, putting pressure on traditional currencies. Despite challenges such as quantum computing, Alden believes Bitcoin's structural innovations ensure its long-term viability, positioning it as a scalable and reliable asset for financial security.
So I think 10, 20 years, I think it increasingly becomes global capital. I think that right now, the network size is like under $2 trillion. I think that first we got to get as big as gold, which now with the price increase is estimated to be something like 20 trillion or 15 trillion, something in that ballpark. So I would say first we have to add another zero to market size. Because one of the ways I describe it is that Bitcoin is money, but it's not a super densely saleable money in any one area. So if I take the dollar, let's actually take a simple example. If I take the Egyptian pound, it is very saleable in Egypt. With Egyptian pounds, I can buy almost anything from any merchant. As soon as I go outside of Egypt, that is terrible money. And it's because it's got this monopoly in Egypt and this cultural acceptance of it. But then it's almost useless anywhere else. And most currencies are like that. A couple top currencies like the dollar and the euro, they are very saleable in their own jurisdiction. And then there's still a number of ways to transfer exchange it outside of the jurisdiction, but there's more friction there. Bitcoin is interesting because in most urban centers in the world, you can find some people that would accept Bitcoin. Or at the very least, if you have Bitcoin with you, you could find someone to transfer it for the local currency and then spend it fairly easily. Certainly easier than I could get Egyptian pounds off my hands here in the United States and quickly just go buy something with dollars. And so it is gradually monetizing, but doesn't have a very dense base. But I think that over time, as it gets larger and larger and larger, that starts to become more relevant. The other big thing is that governments try to hold it back with capital gains taxes, so that every single transaction you do is you have to record it and pay taxes on it. And there's some, El Salvador has eliminated that. Over time, we could see more countries start to get pressured by their people to eliminate that and elect politicians that eliminate that and just make it a money. So I think when we're talking 10, 20 years, I think we're talking more like becoming a really big global asset with some monetary characteristics. But then eventually in the longer arc of time, it has good attributes for money, in my opinion, and will increasingly pressure fiat currencies. I think digital money with zero debasement is a pretty powerful long-term concept. And Bitcoin does gradually update over time. So, the Ethernet that we use now is not the Ethernet that was invented 50 years ago, but it updates in these backward compatible ways. And so I think that, it'll update over time. Maybe no line of code Bitcoin 100 years from now is the same line of code that it is now. But I think the concept and the chain of continuity of network effects has a very good chance of persisting for the foreseeable future, and it's very powerful long-term money that it's hard to imagine that getting displaced. Now we can imagine risks like quantum computing, and then does it have to do a hard fork to become quantum hard, and the UTXO set transfers over. I mean, I can imagine different scenarios for what it looks like in the far enough future, but I think for any sort of investable time horizon, that this is a structural upgrade. So most fintech upgrades over the past century and a half We're about adding new layers on top of the existing system. So increasing centralization, increasing efficiency, but not really changing the root of it. Bitcoin is the first kind of creation in like a century and a half, where again we have fast settlement now. That's actually a really big invention, and that has very long term implications. That is not just a minor. It's not just a one new thing that exists now. That's a pretty foundational thing that I think as it builds a network effect over the long term, does fundamentally change how we think money is.
Bitcoin's recent surge to an all-time high of $104,088 underscores its growing importance as a transformative global asset, aligning with the insights shared by Lyn Alden. Trading around $98,500 on Monday, Bitcoin's meteoric rise has attracted the attention of institutional giants like Amazon and Microsoft. Shareholders at Amazon have proposed using Bitcoin as a reserve asset to hedge against inflation, while Microsoft is exploring adding Bitcoin to its balance sheet. These moves echo Alden's view of Bitcoin as a scalable and reliable alternative to traditional asset. Institutional demand continues to grow, as seen by a record $2.77 billion net inflow into Bitcoin spot exchange-traded funds last week. Alden's analysis of Bitcoin's fixed supply and resistance to inflation underscores its appeal amid this increasing adoption. Analysts, including Lay, managing director at Oro, view this rally as the early stage of a bullish cycle extending into 2025, mirroring Alden's belief in Bitcoin's long-term viability. Despite the bullish momentum, Bitcoin's price could face a short-term pullback, with analysts eyeing $90,000 as a support level before reaching a projected all-time high of $119,500. Lyn Alden compares Bitcoin's evolution to the disruptive growth of the Internet, highlighting its resilience despite past market collapses and emerging risks. Bitcoin's rise from under $15,500 2 years ago demonstrates its durability and potential to reshape the financial system, solidifying its position as a dominant asset in both institutional and retail portfolios. As we wrap up, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin's future growth? Do you think Bitcoin's fixed supply will be the key factor in surpassing gold in value? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.